I got 3rd place at Springfest, the Netherlands, with Great Nature in V Premium. And this build is actually pretty spicy, so you might want to check it out. Of course, shout out to teammates Astral Susanoo or Mo and Jay. Of course, incredible players. Now, if you want to up your Vanguard skills, you can go to the link in the description and get my Vanguard course called Vanguard Mastery. You can use the code Solemn for a discount. And if you still need Vanguard cards, you can go to 50cards.shop and use the code Solemn as well. So for the list, we have Leopold, my baby. I'm so happy I finally got a Great Nature top. We have the top 3 mat right here. Oops, it's the wrong way. So right here, top 3. Very cool. Very nice. We start off with 4 Leopold reverse. It's our right target, so of course we want to have 4. V is basically the format where if you miss your grade 3 ride, you auto lose. Then we are playing 4 of the Fox. This is like the best engine Great Nature has gotten in a long time. This together with the grade 2, you're able to send back so many triggers. You're able to keep on plussing, building field, search your rewrites for more Excel circles. Like, this engine does everything. It's quite insane. I've seen people play like 3, and I understand why, because of course it's a lot of grade 3s, but I really just want to always draw this. I'm also playing 4 of the Parrot, and so the more that Parrot actually resolves, the better. Also, this is a deck that wins off hitting fronts, and so if you can deck in more, you'll be able to win more. So Mini Belly and Parakeet have more targets this way, and of course, finding this, it's also going to send back a front. So I always want to have this. Also, having 2 of this is awesome because you're just going to be able to have 2 of the other Fox, be able to put 10,000 twice, and it just makes your turns way more lethal. Then I'm playing triple of the old Leopold. This is my baby. This card is literally just a brick. Like, you need it to place it on your rearguard circle and lock for reverse, but beyond that, there is no reason to play it. Oh, also these beautiful sleeves. God, I loved playing with these. I got them from 50 cards. Use the code Solemn for a discount. So yeah, if you have to ride this, cry about it, I guess. This card is an awful ride. You just need it for the locking. Then grade 2, of course, the Fox. Like I said, this is the most important engine in the deck. I always want to draw this. If I could, I would play 6 of this. This card is just that nuts. Then 4 Parakeet, because like I said, if you misride, you auto lose. Also, going second, you really don't want to guard with your rear guards, so you want to be able to like heal guard. And also, this shuffles the deck. And you will notice my deck actually runs even more ways to send fronts back to the deck. So being able to send them to the bottom with the best card in the deck, more on that later, and then shuffle afterwards is very important. Also, if you were to send back with a grade 3 Fox and it's 2 fronts, then afterwards being able to call this and still shuffle is still really good. Now, for the other star of the show, we have double barcode Zebra, and this is basically like the big difference between my build and what a lot of other people were doing with Great Nature. This is also what Derek piloted to first place because I told him to, because it's simply that nuts. So here's the theory. Basically, Great Nature needs to hit fronts in order to win. Like, all of these Excel circles that you get with all of these big units, it's cute and all, but if it doesn't get big, you still get shut down by like 1 heal guardian if you went first, or like a defensive trigger at any other point in the game. So you really want units that get like big, but ideally it's units that don't cost resources. So like the Hamster Rival and then Culture Gorilla even, which is even more high roll, that's not for me. I really just wanted a unit that gets big without any other weird requirements. Now, I saw a lot of people try out Geograph Giant, and the problem with Geograph Giant is that he only works on Excel circles, and usually your Excel circles have to be occupied by these Foxes, especially the first turn, because that's when you only have like 1, and after that the second. And so if you are playing normally, this will almost always be on the first Excel circle, and then the second will probably also be one of these because you're checking top 5 and drawing and so forth. And so being forced then to put your Geograph Giant there, or it's a vanilla, feels awful. Whereas if you have this, you can also put this on a regular rearguard circle and it will still get big. Furthermore, often this will already be hitting better numbers than Geograph Giant. And if you're against Force Clans, this gets even better than him if you milled twice. And let me tell you, this deck will always mill twice. But that's not where it ends, because if you mill more than twice, this card gets infinitely better than Geograph Giant. So my turns can actually be super lethal even without hitting fronts, because I can simply have something like my Leopold in the middle. Let's just make a fake field right here. Let's say my field is something like this, and then this, and then this. Let's say this is your field. If this was a Geograph Giant, you were out of luck. But because this is your field, and then you did a bunch of extra milling because of the rest of the engine, you will see your entire field is hitting big except for this guy. That just feels so much better than calling a Geograph Giant here that's simply vanilla. Then for grade 1s, we have the grade 3 searchers. Again, this is for finding our second Leopold, because yes, if you don't have the second Leopold, your deck falls apart. GG no re. You also want to find the Fox, you also want to find the Healguard. And also, very important and underrated, it shuffles the deck. Like I said, my goal is to put back a bunch of front triggers, and then if they're at the bottom, because 2 cards can actually put it to bottom, then you really want to be able to shuffle. And so this is a free shuffle, unlike Parakeet, which is a CB for the shuffle. So very often I will keep this in my hand on purpose, because I know on my lethal turn that's coming up right now, this is going to be the shuffle that seals the deal. Then we have 4 Lemur. This is because I want to be using my resources fully at all times, so I will just pay the grade 2 Fox CB every single time. I will use Parakeet every time. I will use the grade 3 Fox every time. I will use all resources because I know I'll be using this Lemur and another card to get them back anyway. And also, this is a mill, so you're gonna be making your best grade 2s extra big. Now, when I said other card, yes, I'm also playing 2 Scale Toucan. So this is essentially an extra copy of a Flated Lemur, because you can just add it back to hand and then redo it. So this way, you have even more resource abuse and even more milling to make those grade 2s even bigger. Also, this also gets bigger when you mill. Finally, I also have 2 Clerical Kakapo, my cute little burb. So this is once again more milling, but it can also send back front triggers or draw triggers or heal triggers depending on what you want. Early game, this can also dig for more pieces, like maybe you're missing a ride, maybe you're missing your grade 3, maybe you're missing Leopold. So this kind of just adds consistency to the deck whilst also milling, so making your field way bigger whilst also sending back front triggers. And so depending on what you need, Toucan can be this or this. So you can place it, bounce back one of the 2, reuse them, keep the milling going, keep on stacking everything up. It kind of feels like old Great Nature in that way, where you used to just pump them full of 4Ks, you're just steroiding up these beautiful little critters, and now you're steroiding them up with mills instead. But at least it kind of feels like back in the day, which is really fun. The build Derek was on just had an extra Barcode Zebra and an extra Kakapo instead of these 2, because that was my initial build as well. I just end up settling for this because that way I basically have extra copies of both of them. But both builds are very fine. Both builds feel very close to optimal and actually feel like a way where Great Nature doesn't need to sack in order to win. Because when you're playing the Culture Gorilla version and so forth, you really feel like you need to sack to win. And then there's also Binoculus Tiger that a lot of people are loving to play, but the big issue with that card is the CB cost. Like, if you are using your Leopold, your grade 3 Fox, and the grade 2 Fox to consistently get back your grade 3s, it's very, very hard to have the CB for Bino Tiger. Then we have our 8 front triggers. I know some people like to play like crits because they think like so many people will assume that it's all front, so when I hit that 1 crit, haha, this will really get them because they no guarded while they were at 3 thinking they were safe. And that's like a cute idea, but the issue with that is, how often are you actually hitting that crit with that random lethal shot? And how often are you wishing that was a front? And I'm gonna bet you were wishing way more often that it was a front. I would absolutely play even more fronts if I could, so I'm definitely not gonna play less of them on purpose just for like a cute little crit auto win shot sometimes once every 30 games or so. That's really not worth it to me. Beyond that, people are usually gonna be saving their PG for the Vanguard swing because I'm always gonna have a booster behind it, so it's always gonna be like 25 or 30k, and it's always gonna be 2 damage, which is something people don't really want to be taking because they know this is gonna be the only thing actually dealing 2 damage. Of course, sometimes I'll swing with 1 rearguard first, depending on the game state hand and all the numbers and so forth, but in general, people will be trying to guard that, especially if you push them harder than like 1 or 2 damage. Usually I will have pushed them harder because I will actually attempt to call a booster behind my Vanguard instantly. Like, same thing like when I topped with Gravidia World, I do not want my opponent 15k no passing me ever in the early game. This deck already doesn't really have a push early, so you really want to maximize any damage you can put in, because that way they won't be able to hit defensives once you're in later into the game. Always trying to call a booster, that way they'll be a bit higher than they normally would be, and that way you don't really need the crit cute one shots, you'll just do it with the fronts, which are just completely broken in this deck. Like, if I hit a front, it's probably over. Like, If you have 4 rear guards and they're all getting doped up already, you hit a front like GG. If you do it 2 turns in a row, double GG. Also, this is probably part of a larger discussion that should be had, but I think fronts are really unhealthy and should probably not be a thing. They kind of feel like stands where the only time fronts are played are when they are breaking the game. Like, hitting a front is so game warping and like completely game turning in specific decks while being like completely dogshit in every other one, and it just feels super weird. Now, of course, right now Great Nature isn't like the best deck, so obviously it doesn't feel like a major issue, but it does feel like so swingy. I don't know, it feels very weird. Then we have 4 Draw PG because Draw PGs are broken, and 4 Heal Guard because Heal Guards are crucial in a format where going first is broken. Then we have our V Starter because that's your only option, and Asuka XL Markers because Great Nature base. So that is my 3rd place Leopold list. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Again, if you're interested in the Vanguard course, go to the link in the description and use the code Solemn, and I will see you soon. Ciao.